Okay. Today we got a very special guest, Adam Seow. And Adam Seow and I go way back. We're from the old days, 80s, 90s. And Adam is, I would have to say, probably the only true artistic commercial photographers in Malaysia. And he's had some big clients. And his knowledge of photography is immense. And the reason why I want to interview Adam today, for the reason of telling and informing young photographers today the importance of the elementary and fundamentals of lighting. So without further ado, Adam?
Hi, I'm Adam Seow. Yeah, I knew John back in the old days. However, nowadays I noticed there's a shift, not just nowadays, maybe the last 15 years back, it's a shift in photography from very camera equipment based to more lighting based. The one thing that hardly changed is lighting, the importance of lighting, because as far as you do photography, the main thing is light. So for the young enthusiasts, the young photographers, it's good for them to start off with a strong base in lighting, because whatever you do, you always need light. For photography, the word photography, as you know, the word photo means light. So that's the main ingredient. We use that to create our photographs. Okay, so I did a workshop, and in the workshop I thought was mainly about talking how to use light and what is light for you to create the type of picture. I came back from Brooks Institute and I started doing commercial photography for probably about 35 to 40 years. And in that time, from film to digital, the understanding of lighting basically never quite changed. But the use of equipment has changed a lot. Equipment today is very sleek, very good dynamic range. However, you still need to know how to light, otherwise the dynamic range is just a dynamic range. If you don't feed it with the proper lighting, it's not alive. You are alive, so you have to feed it correctly. So this is where I teach people to do lighting. For example, if a client of mine, it starts from a client of mine, so take for a client who say doing a particular product, our job is to make the product look as true to life as possible. Colors, shape, design, whatever it is. So once we know how to bring out the shape of the product, we use that same mindset for fine art, for whatever we are shooting, so that we build a character in the subject matter. To do that, we use lighting, understand lighting, contrast, composition, and all the rest come into play. But most important is the lighting. That's where the character comes from. So, any question you want to ask me?
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed with the young photographers today is, and I've gone to a couple of these so-called workshops by young photographers shooting models and stuff, is that they don't use a light meter, a handheld light meter such as Sekonic, Gaussian, etc. And I ask myself, now why is it that? And when I ask that question, the answer I get is, well, you just look at it and if it looks nice, it's good enough. And I find that hard to swallow. What do you think, Adam?
Okay, if it look nice, it look nice. Well, our human eyes and the subject of the sensor and the paper you print off is not the same as the human eye. So we have to make the sensor look as if how our eyes see. That's where the dynamic range come in. That's where you use the meter to calculate, hoping that our eyes tell us how to meter tell us very hard. Because our eyes, we have much more dynamic, we have a brain to compensate things. The sensor can't. You have to compensate for the sensor so that it print how your eyes see. So you do need a meter. However, of late I've noticed there's one meter called L zone. It's fantastic. It tells you all the zones there in different colors with different dynamic range or different contrasts. For example, you start in middle gray, 18% gray, right? The ICC profile gray, and you work up the skin tone, the darker skin and the lighter skin by looking at the color of the zones. So that is a form of metering already. It's a spot metering already. So once you understand that zone, say represent, say for example, blue is underexposed. So you look at the blue, you know it's underexposed because it's blue in color. That's the meter telling you blue. So you put in a light to bring it back out from the blue. And how much out from the blue? You follow the zones. So that is metering. So to say I use my eyes to meter, I wouldn't say right or wrong. Some people say I do it through experience. Okay, fine. That turns you on. But end of the day, what I understand is end of the day, the meter helps us to interpret the light so that the sensor will interpret what we see and print what we see. So what we see, interpret, the sensor doesn't mean he will see how you see, because the dead thing, you are alive. So the dead thing need to know how the live things work. So that I use the meter to tell the live, the dead thing, this is how I see it. So you put it there. That's how it works. Okay. So the meter helped me to interpret the density of light to the sensor, to the print. Because different paper also print differently. So you need to understand the dynamic range of the paper. So when they say from capture to print, it's actually you need some sort of a dynamic interpretation of what you see, translate into the sensor, translate back into the paper. That's how it works. So you do need a meter of some sort.
And I also noticed that, and that's a great explanation on how the light meter and how important the light meter is for, especially for commercial work, because you want to be the exposure to be perfect and to have it concise and consistent for when you shoot again of the same item. Now I also noticed that a lot of these so-called young photography professionals don't know the difference between reflective light and what do you call? They're using like TTL in a studio to measure light when they're not measuring direct light from a strobe or constant light. And I don't even think they know that there is a difference between the two.
Okay. The difference between the strobe and the continuous light to begin with is that the continuous light, what you see is what you get. But what you see is what you get is your eye seeing it. But it's a sensor getting what you're seeing. So therefore, like I said, the meter will help you to translate to the contrast it sees. Strobe, you have to shoot it to see it. You have to read it, shoot it, oh, underexposed, underexposed. So basically, one, you can use the meter to translate directly what you see, or like I said, the L zone. For the flash, you use your light meter to translate for you. Both cases, you need that. Okay, now, as far as what you call reflected light and transmission light, okay. Reflected light is like, for example, my palm is here, the light hit here, the light go out there, that is reflected light. Transmission is directly, not through tracing and all that, right? So therefore, another way of doing what you call reflected light is, I put a whiteboard, I hit a light and reflect down. This is reflected light down. It's softer. Transmission is harder. So the type of way I deliver my light will give you a different character. Okay, that is under characteristic of lighting. We were talking about metering as translation of lighting. So whether the younger photographer can tell the difference, I don't know. Maybe they can, I don't know. But this is the difference. One is transmission, one is reflected. Reflected tend to be softer, the colors are less saturated. Direct transmission is more saturated, it's more contrasty.
Okay.
So you pick up these two characters and how you're going to introduce to a product, for example, like this, right? Now, will I use broad lighting or transmitted or reflected? I have a choice because I want to see what I want. I say, oh, I want it to be softer, then I use the other method. How I use it and when I use it is still subjected to what am I shooting. Okay, so the saturation also does the same thing. It's subjected to what's the color of the subject. Okay, so during my workshop, I talk about a lot of glass and metal because glass and metal is not easy to control. But to me, once you can control the glass and metal, the rest is chicken shit. It's easy.
I see.
You go from one difficult thing to control, so that when you control the glass, you want tonality, you want the metal to have tonality. Once you can control the tonality, this is easy. This is easy. Skin tone is very important. Skin tone, you need to get the right color. That's important. But what I'm saying is the lighting for transmission and reflection. Okay. But most important in my workshop, the very first workshop, very importantly, is you should understand sensitometry. That is meaning how sensitive the material to a particular light source. Okay, so when I have a certain light source hitting the sensitivity of a film or sensor, it needs to be measured how much density there is to create the kind of tones. Once you understand the sensitometry, the tonality in the sensor or in the film, next you need to understand the light. Okay, once you understand the characteristic light, then you understand using the light how to wrap onto the subject. You need to know what's the subject made of. Once you understand what the subject is made of, then you go into tonality, which you know already, the type of light you know already, and contrast you know already. That makes an image. And that image translates to what your eyes, your feeling of using the meter to bring out the subject. So they're all interrelated.
Now, for example, I know you do a lot of fine art photography and commercial photography. And commercial-wise, you try to what you want to try to get is a picture that the creative director wants and the client is looking for, as opposed to fine art is a very extremely subjective form.
Okay.
So in the fine art sector of your photography, who are some of your favorite artists that you try to emulate or not copy, but that inspire
Inspiring.
you?
Oh, okay, okay. If you're talking about fine art, if you're talking about lifestyle fashion fine art, I like this photographer named Vincent Peters. Fantastic photographer. His pictures are very, very Hollywood looking. He has a very good old Hollywood style, but introduced in a contemporary manner. Okay. I believe Peter Lindbergh just died, and he did a talk on Peter Lindbergh's work. And Peter Lindbergh is a German, and he's a German. The way he talked about photography is very enriching. I just look at his picture, I look at the way he talked, he inspired me want to go out and shoot, you know. And that is important. Like Peter Lindbergh is just equally inspiring, but Peter Lindbergh is the older days. This guy new today's guy. He's fantastic. I think he's gone into shooting film even now, motion. I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. But however, apart from that, still life, well, I've seen a new group of young photographers, young means not 15, 20 years old, but this era, the way they do black and white photography, they crunch the picture, you know, and then they use wide angle lenses to go in and shoot it. They don't worry about distortion. They do it in such a way it's very cinematic. At the same time, it's very gritty. It's a new approach. It's quite fresh, you know. However, after having said all that, they don't simply do it. They can, to know what your eyes see, express what it comes out is the most important part. It's not, today I do this, shot, kena lah, you know, tomorrow cannot repeat. No, repeatability is very important. Speed, accuracy, and repeatability. But you can repeat when you know how to do it right, you know. So when I see a rock, I said, I want the rock to turn black this side and white this side, whatever it is. You know how to control, and that is what fine art is, controlling it, not just one shot miss, no. That is the difference. So for still life, I would say, give names. The old Ansel Adams is interesting, but I like Ansel Adams' work. I like his tonality, right? But however, I think the approach can make slightly more modernistic, using the same tonality. That I don't know names of people like that, but I would like to get into that and experiment into that area.
Understand. In a nutshell, what do you think where do you think photography is going these days? Is it, I noticed that a lot of commercial guys are going out of business. Clients don't have the big budget as they used to. And it seems like they're leaning towards more social media and visual, rather video. Well, what do you think of that?
That is changing times, okay? However, to me, if we don't change, we will be in a rut. We can't stop changing. So what we can do is, we take what we know, we expand into the newer medium and use it to help us. For example, if you know lighting, if you do the lighting, the camera these days has got video in there. Now I've done the lighting already. What is there to stop me to do motion? Nothing, right? I've done the lighting, I just make sure I shoot the video and still use the same kind of light. It's an expansion already. Rather than, no, I don't do video, but then you're in a rut. You know, I mean, if the camera can do it, why don't you? You have the ability to do it. You may not know in the beginning, but experiment you can find out. Because today's equipment is so easy to use, lah. So, for example, okay, how did I transition to digital so easily? Let's go back when I first started. Okay, I was doing film. Then when CNR came to Malaysia and gave us a talk on digital, and then the first thing I saw this back, well, maybe 20 years ago, I think it was. Then they showed us a histogram. I looked at it. Hey, I said, now I can see the histogram. I can see where the tonality, I can see where the density is, you know. I can see, I don't have to shoot a Polaroid and guess, you know. I can see the structure there, you know. I said, this is good because this allows me to pre-visualize exactly what the sensor going to see, you know. That's how I got into it. I didn't get into it because everybody's want to do it. No, it helps my work. So coming back to video, I've done the lighting. It can help me for storytelling or another an expansion of my storytelling. So I just do it as an expansion of my storytelling. I'm still a photographer or visual artist. Now I got added story to tell. It helps me that way, rather than fight it, you know. But if I were to just shoot for the hell of it, I don't know why I'm shooting. I'm not into that.
Okay, fantastic. I want to give a plug out to Adam. Adam, you're giving workshops in different genres of photography. And of course, the one I'm interested in, Hollywood glamour from the 50s and 60s.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, to me, it's just like, I can't stop looking at pictures of, you know, Rock Hudson and iconic Phil Silvers and iconic portraits of these people from back then. So I understand you're going to give a workshop in
Working
that?
towards that,
Okay,
yes.
great. So if you're interested in doing workshops and getting more educated in photography, I strongly suggest you to get a hold of Adam. And how do they get a hold of you?
You can PM me or call you, get me.
Okay, okay. Just contact me and
yeah.
I'll put you in touch with him.
Yeah.
And he also does one-on-one,
Yes.
which I strongly suggest because his workshops are intense and quite involved, and make sure you have an open mind and some capabilities of understanding your
Yes,
basic
you need that,
photography.
yeah.
All right, Adam, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.